Today is really important to share some of our lessons learned in school consultation as board certified behavior analysts, and some of the pitfalls, successes, and kind of like little ways that you've learned to work in schools with a whole different demographic, because a lot of our ABA services always started off in the home, and many insurance companies, Medicaid, various funding sources across the United States provide home ABA services. Now, I know for sure that when ABA therapists started working in schools, they were a bit anxious over that because of the culture being different, the rules being different, each school having a different vibe or on how you get along with building administrators and so forth. Sometimes the child study team not always getting along with the building administration. I just wanted to throw this out there for you guys. What are some of the challenges that you guys have faced, anyone, and how you overcome those?
Coming from a teaching background and knowing how to navigate the public education system with the budget constraints and how teachers don't really have resources and coming in and they don't have supplies, they don't have reinforcers. So that becomes a challenge when you're a newly minted BCBA trying to come in and provide consultation, but there's limitations that will prevent you from doing so. I mean, I learned way back when, but now trying to disseminate the science and making the staff and the kiddos' lives better, you're facing these bureaucratic limitations that you have to navigate.
Often part of it is the number of people you have to go to get something approved, right?
Yeah.
So that could be a bureaucratic challenge. Do you guys have any examples with that statement of getting things done and how difficult it can be with the bureaucracy, say in a school district? Or
I mean, as a director of school consultation, oftentimes what we do is we touch base with the BCs who work on the ground. Let us know when there is some type of need if a director doesn't reach out to us from the school district personally. And then again, we'll set up a meeting, we'll discuss needs, and then it has to go through that budget system, right? And that only happens once monthly. So 9 times out of 10, if they need a CA or an RBT, and then we have to wait for that to get approved by the board so they have the finances to pay us.
Yeah, so sometimes there's such a delay between the time that the need is there for a learner and a teacher or an aide and the time it's finally approved. Have you ever come across times where by the time it's approved you don't need it anymore and a kid is sent out of district? That is frustrating.
I mean, it's quicker to send a student out of district sometimes than it is for them to get a clinical associate and an RBT approved through the budget.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
even with that,
is.
though, the beauty of that is there's always another need or another placement that they can go to. So our staff are pretty flexible that way, where we can have them placed with another student or within another program or classroom.
Yeah, especially in what we're coming through this pandemic and the teacher shortages. Do you guys have any comments on that? Because you're in the schools way more than I was and am now. Like, what are you seeing in New Jersey and Pennsylvania now with shortages of teachers? And how are we coping with that?
I mean, class sizes are really, really large.
Yeah.
Which makes classroom management virtually impossible sometimes just because of the sheer numbers of students that are in one classroom. And I also see that in even self-contained classrooms where there is a code of how many kids are in there, they're in breach of code because there's just, they have to be somewhere.
Yes, it's teachers, it's paras, it's related services. I mean, there's a shortage across the board. And that's a barrier of itself because the kids aren't always getting the support that they need, even when it does get approved.
And then another issue with that is they're having obviously a hiring issue. They can't bring teachers in fast enough, so they're offering these very large sign-on bonuses, which could cause other teachers who have been in the field for many years or are doing an above and beyond job or in classrooms that are just way too large for what it's meant to be, they're getting disgruntled and then ultimately leaving the field. So while you're solving one problem, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot
I've
with
read
another.
that there could be a $7,000 sign-on bonus for a new teacher or any certified teacher to come in. But then those that were loyal to the school system and the kids that had already been there for many years, they're not getting anything, right?
I think with that too, I'm seeing like some of my best teachers that I've seen throughout the years, they're even starting to get burnt out because now they're getting every single tough kid that comes through the door. So especially in those general education classrooms, you have your shining stars. And I've had teachers say, why Like, why me again? Like, why is it always me?
Yeah.
And I think those are really going to be the people that leave, are the ones who are well versed in classroom management, because they know their skill set can be used elsewhere. And I mean, realistically, they could, go to school to be a BCBA, or they can do something else within that field and not be in that tight spot and be burnt out all the time.
Yeah, sometimes stuck in a position, sometimes even tenured, where it just doesn't make financial sense, I believe, for them to leave. And then it slowly can kill their spirit year after year, day after day, that grind. It seems to me that, I've had some disagreements with folks in the organizational behavior management world that will say that you can use OBM in schools, and to a certain degree you can use behavioral science to reward excellent engagement by teachers and excellent performance. However, you can't do anything even close to appropriately identifying the very highly engaged teachers that are consistent, and making sure that there's a differential pay arrangement for the people putting in extra. And unfortunately, I think we've all been part of organizations, and we make that mistake here at BDA sometimes, where the high performer, without realizing it, just gets dumped on with more work. And, every once in a while, we're seeing that happen in our own organization. We're like, let's hurry up and have them complete a scorecard. Let's figure out what their goals are and make sure that this person that's a shining star isn't just taking more work. There's only so far, the way I see it, that you can go and be sustainable for decades if you're not paid for the creativity, if you're not paid well for using your own materials, buying stuff. The future of education is a little concerning, and I don't think we're the only ones to say that.
I think also you have to look at the underlying issue as to why some teachers are stepping up and other teachers aren't.
Yeah.
Why are they sitting back and not stepping up? And a lot of times that could be due to the pay. It could also be due to the support that they're being provided. Sometimes I feel teachers are like, I'm not getting the support anyway, so I'm going to sit back and let it go. And you have to kind of go in and you have to build a rapport with them, and you have to figure out why they're not stepping up. And what is it that you can do? Is it recognition? Is it pay? Which unfortunately in a district is going to be very difficult to do.
The one thing you guys do have in your arsenal is, since you do have the administration's ear quite often, if you give a shout out and a thanks for it, it might go a long way, I'm assuming, at times, to the administration. Do you use that strategy? I didn't mean to cut you off, but...
No. And I think that's great, because sometimes the pay could be like little things for their classroom that, might be simple to other people, but to that teacher, that's something that they've really wanted. It might be like a rug for the room. That's a big thing I hear from teachers is, I don't have this, I don't have that. I wish I had a carpet area. I wish I had, you know what? So that may be something that the district could get that would be along the lines of pay. Sometimes it might be recognition. And other times it may be that they don't feel supported by the administration. So if they do have that student who has behavioral difficulties in the class, that they need the support from the administration on how to resolve that.
Administrators are so busy in those buildings, and sometimes not even in the building. Are there any strategies or ways that you go about getting their ear to let, like, I remember I used to kind of do like what I called a drive-by. I would just stop informally if they were busy, say a principal or a child study team member. I'd walk by. If they were busy, I wouldn't bother them. But if they had a moment and I could tell from their body language, that's when I would mention a resource need or something like that. Do you guys have any?
I use the principles of reinforcement. So I know in the district that we both work in, I'll buy lunch for the administrators, and I'll say, hey, I would really like to sit down with you and talk. I know your time is valuable. What's your favorite place? I'll bring lunch. And that usually gets them to come. That brings them to the table, literally. I do think that's important, building relationships. Not that you have to buy anything as a director. That's something I just choose to do to build that relationship. But when I am training new BCBAs or BCBAs that want to move into a director role, it's all about interpersonal relationships and building rapport, and the best thing to me is using unconditioned reinforcers. Doesn't mean you have to do that. I mean, praise goes a long way too, but when an admin is that busy, Food usually works.
I don't go and buy lunch, but I do go and overlap with all of my VCs, and I try to do that monthly. And when I'm going to overlap with them, I email the director and let them know, like, hey, I'm going to be coming on this day and time. Is there any time in that time frame that you're available to like touch base? And a lot of the times they're very happy to see me come through. I mean, we solve a lot of problems for them and issues.
Yeah.
So when they get to speak to you and see you in person, they actually do get very excited, and they carve out time to speak with you.
And that's great, because I think what you're offering, the majority of the time, it's when you guys go out there, right, as leaders, as top performing leaders in the New Jersey and PA area, like I would imagine you're not billing for that. Most administrators are not used to that, and they're concerned about the budget, clearly, and you're kind of going over there to overlap with someone and then be that conduit between the teacher, maybe the newer BCBA, and then the administration. So that can be refreshing, knowing that it's not hitting their budget.